Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Bobby Spiegel. I'm the president and CEO for the Corona Chamber of Commerce. We're so proud and honored to be able to have this program today. I did want to touch base. I think many of you that are on the call, on a personal call right now with us, you're part of the recording part, but those that will be listening to it later may not be aware of who our chair of our advocacy is, and that is the Honorable California Assemblyman retired Jeff Miller. I just wanted to touch base real quick. This last week, we were up in Sacramento, and through Jeff's direction and guidance, working with him and along with our advocacy rep, who is Jeff Gibson, you'll hear from him later on. The California Chamber totally recognized our chamber and some great successes. And I'm going to let Jeff share all those things with you in a little bit, but just know that we're very grateful to have Jeff Miller as our chair for this committee. Jeff is a former state assembly member for the state of California. He's the former elected mayor and city council member for the city of Corona. And what I think is the most important is that he's a family man and a business owner here locally in Corona. Very, very successful business. And when he was in the elected positions, he was able to work with both sides of the aisle, meaning that it didn't matter if someone had a D for Democrat or an R for Republican or an I for Independent, whatever it was, didn't matter. Jeff was looking at what was best for the business community. He, like you, understands how hard it is for a business owner to keep their doors open, to make payroll, to pay the bills, to do the various things that each and every one of you being on this call or listening to the call later go through on a daily basis. And so we're very honored to have him as our chair for our advocacy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeff Miller.
Thank you, Bobby. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's briefing on Legislative Action Committee issues. And we come off a very interesting week. Obviously, we come off of a primary election last night. Congratulations to Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes. I see Brad's on the call. Please pass that along. And yeah, so we had a successful Sacramento trip. Mr. Chad Miller stole the show, getting all the awards, and well-deserved. And then, hey, Northern California, gas is now at $10 a gallon. So here we go. Here we go. All right. So today's meeting is sponsored by Express Employment Professionals. Every day they help job seekers find and help businesses find quality employees, find work. Express annually employs over 526,000 people across 830 franchise locations worldwide. They have an underlying passion to help people build better lives for themselves, their families, their communities. Thank you, Express Employment Professionals, for sponsoring the meeting. And with that, just a little chat button on the bottom. If you have any questions, just click the chat button and we'll get back to you. We'll answer your question. And with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Stephanie Shapiro for her presentation.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's so nice to see all of you here today. I have a few announcements I'd like to make about some upcoming programs that we have going on here through the Chamber. First up, this coming Monday, we are having Coffee with an Entrepreneur. This is a monthly event that we co-host with the City of Corona. It's free to attend, and this month's featured speaker is Lana Thomas. She's the president and the founder, the owner of Corona Hardwood right here in the beautiful city of Corona. She's going to share her story with us. She and her husband are both business owners. She is an immigrant to this country, and she is a great inspiration. So we're very excited to feature her. Anthony just put the link in the chat. It really helps us, even with these free events, for people to RSVP, because we do set up the room a certain way, order food, and we also have name tags for all the attendees. So we'd love to have you join us. And if you go ahead and click that link, or even just put your coming in the chat, Anthony can get you registered. Next up, also happening next week on Friday, will be Good Morning Corona. This is on the 17th. We will be celebrating the graduation of the Executive Leadership Roundtable. So we'll be talking about what the program is, the project that was accomplished this year, and how people can get involved for the next class. So applications are available now for that. It's an exciting time. This is our last Good Morning Corona until August. So we definitely encourage attendance at this one. Get your fill in. It's a great opportunity to build business relationships. And there's also a discount for members through this Friday. So we hope to see you there for that. This one isn't happening until next month, but the Economic Forecast is an annual event that our chamber co-hosts with other chambers in the area. So we focus on the Southern California region. We're bringing in Dr. Christopher Thornburg. He is the founder of Beacon Economics. He's also a professor at UCR, and he is renowned worldwide for his accurate predictions and his really no-nonsense approach to what is happening in our world and where we're going. The great thing about him is that he talks to the audience in an engaging way and also in a way that people who are not economists can understand. So I always take away great things from this event. I hope to have you there for this. It's on July 15th at Eagle Glen Golf Club. It will be a luncheon. So this would normally be our Good Morning Corona day, but we'll have this forecast instead. This is in partnership with the Brea, Yorba Linda, and Chino Valley Chambers of Commerce. So we've got 3 counties that will be represented, and we already have over 200 seats filled. So if you're thinking about coming, now's the time to get your ticket. There's also a discount on that through the 15th of this month. So just a week to go. And finally, the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is about the Women's Leadership Conference. This is another annual event that the Chamber hosts in partnership with the County of Riverside. It will be on Thursday, August 25th, and we are about to release tickets for this. So I'm going to have Anthony put this in the chat, but if you text now or when you get off the call, WLC, just those 3 letters for Women's Leadership Conference to 71441, you will get the notification of when those tickets go on sale. And the reason that you want to be part of that text list is because when they go on sale, they are going to be at a very large discount, 50%, and it's only going to last for a week. So we want our regular chamber participants that are interested in attending to get the best possible deal and to start making their plans for this event. You can see on your screens, this year's theme is Take Charge. And so whatever that means to you in your world, that's what we're going to be focusing on. Men are welcome at this event and encouraged to attend as well. So with that, I would like to turn it back over to you, Jeff. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much. So I'd like to, before I get into hand it over to Jeff, just want to see if Brad has anything that he wants to share from the Assembly Member's Office. I want to thank Peppermint Ridge, one of our wonderful local nonprofits, for coming on the call today. Thank you, Jim. And hey, we've got a professional ice hockey team on the call again, too. So the Ontario Reign. So very, very exciting playoff hockey right now, Andrew. I'm glued to it. So with that, before I hand it to Jeff, Brad, is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Real quickly, so Assembly Member Cervantes had about 11 bills make it out of the Assembly and headed over to the Senate, which we're really excited about. Some about protecting voting rights, addressing disparities for our LGBTQ+ communities, strengthening protections for sexual assault counselors and survivors on college campuses, and investing in small businesses. One of which is AB 1619, which the Corona Chamber so graciously supports, which is great. Which will clarify on voter registration affidavits that the signature appearing on that affidavit of registration may be compared with the signature appearing on your identification envelope for the return of a vote by mail ballot. If anyone has any questions on any other bills, feel free to contact me and let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. With that, I'd like to introduce Jeff Gibson. Jeff is the owner of Occidental Communications Group. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jeff for 25 4 years now, working with Jeff, 24 years.
Yep.
Good morning, Jeff. For 35 plus years, he's done political consulting and government relations and government affairs work. He's specialized in areas of housing, environmental, transportation, just to name a few. And with that, Jeff, it's all yours. And by the way, great job on the Sacramento trip last week.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is that we are the most awarded legislative program run by a chamber in the state. So we have generated 4 small business advocate awards in the last 5 years. So of the last 4 that were given with a COVID year off, we have won each of those. And we are also the only chamber to have also won presidential circle during that period of time. So the work that we're doing here is being recognized statewide, and I congratulate Bobby and everybody at the chamber, and especially Chad Miller, who is this year's small business advocate of the year. So it's a lot of hard work, but we're definitely going in the right direction as far as that's concerned. We have 3 major issues that we're battling now. They're over in the 2 of them are over in the Senate, and then one of them is a regulatory issue, which has garnered national attention and will start garnering more and more national attention. So 2 opposes, one on AB 2237, which would we are working with RCTC on this, and Mayor West Speak and Supervisor Spiegel, both of whom wanted to be on the call today, but they could not because RCTC started at 9:30. We will have them on at a later date to talk about these 2 bills. Both of these bills would actually eliminate the ability of even Measure A money. And if you remember, Measure A is the additional sales tax that we pay locally for our road projects. It would eliminate the ability to use Measure A, to use regional funds, to use state funds, or to use federal funds in any capacity to expand highways or any sort of transportation infrastructure that you would normally use during the course of a day. And instead dedicate all of that money permanently to transit projects and other transportation projects, which currently less than 1% of Californians use on a daily basis. And that is a permanent change. So the experience that we had when Jeff Miller was first elected to the city council, in which there was a 50-year moratorium on doing any expansion on the 91 freeway because of a private franchise agreement on the toll lanes, that would become permanent, essentially, on the 91, on the 15, even changing the signalization, say, for instance, on Main Street or on Foothill Parkway. We would have to show that not only is that project being considered to eliminate vehicle miles traveled, which means that you drive less and you actually travel less. This is the reason we started Corona 2020, to strengthen our argument, because we knew things like this were coming up. Well, the day is here. And so both of them are sponsored by Assemblymember Laura Friedman from the west side of Los Angeles, and are focused on specifically advantaging, according to her own comments, on making sure that the maximum amount of our tax dollars, and our means yours and mine, go towards Los Angeles and San Francisco rapid transit systems. And because those systems are so incredibly inefficient, even if those trains, even if those buses were running at 100% capacity, they would still require taxpayer subsidy. And so this is a very big challenge, and we are completely opposed, and we are not opposed to transit. We're not opposed to buses. We're not opposed to reasonable and active expansion of those programs. But our community has gone out on 2 different occasions to tax ourselves, and under state code, when you put your plan together to have a sales tax increase, you have to have specific ideas attached to that. And so there are very specific infrastructure improvements that we as a community, whether that does not mean the Corona Chamber, there are a lot of people that opposed it. But in the law that was passed by voters, there are specific projects that are going to be funded. And this law would completely and totally negate all of those projects, not because they aren't good projects to be building, like the continued expansion of the 91, the continued and reasonable expansion of the 15, the re-signalization of our streets in Corona to eliminate cut-through traffic and cut our own wait time in traffic, but specifically because they were approved previous to the state creating their climate change goals, which, by the way, have shifted 3 times since passage. And so it's a horrible grab. It's very important for us to oppose. They got out of the assembly with a bare 41 vote minimum. Assembly member Cervantes voted against AB 2237, and she didn't vote on AB 2438. But even if she had voted no, it would not have mattered because they had a bare 41 votes. The author has promised to get it out of the assembly. The author made comments on the floor saying this is essentially a fishing expedition and she's looking for the best ideas. And I can tell you, as someone who has worked with the legislature going back 4 decades now, that is all happy talk. And Jeff, you can comment on it as well. When legislators will say amazing things when their bill is open for voting and it's at 39 votes, you'll hear amazing promises of that this is just the first step, but we need to make this step. Please vote for this. We'll make changes when it gets to the Senate, or we'll ask the governor to change the regulation once we've passed this piece of legislation. And that's the position that we're at now. So it's extremely dangerous. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any before we move on.
Yeah, Thank you, Jeff. Anthony?
Yeah, so we have 2 questions, one on each bill, AB 2237 and then AB 2438. And the first one is, what are the climate goals required on AB 2237?
The climate goals on AB 2237 are that every single project, one, that our state be carbon neutral by 2030 under the definition of the state legislature. So as GM found yesterday in their launch of their new line of electric vehicles, when asked how was the electricity generated, they had to admit that 95% of it was generated by coal. The state of California today is actually requesting additional capability to buy coal powered electricity on the open market. And so, but when that electron, which is generated by coal in another state, when that electron crosses the California border, it magically becomes carbon neutral. And so you need to both be carbon neutral. So if you are driving a gasoline powered car, then you are not carbon neutral. But if you're riding in a natural gas powered train, you are carbon neutral. And then the second piece of it is that you must not generate an additional vehicle mile traveled, period. And your road project cannot have been considered before the state legislature passed its latest rules, which in this case would be 2021. So if there is a road project that is under consideration that actually meets those standards, but it wasn't passed before 2021, then after 2021, then you do not qualify for state funding and you're actually barred from using local funding. Next question.
Thank you,
Or a
Jeff.
follow-up. Yeah.
Next question is how can the state override projects on AB 2438?
So the state is so, not to get complicated on how these projects are, this is basically the step, okay? Corona proposes a project. They go to RCTC to get, RCTC is the Riverside County Transportation Commission. They go to RCTC if it's going to use any infrastructure outside of Corona, if it's going to access any sort of infrastructure outside of Corona, or if it needs additional funding for, say, Measure A. RCTC, if it decides that yes, as a body, which represents all of the cities in Riverside County, decides that yes, it is going to be appropriate to be part of what is known as a regional plan. Those regional plans then get the local plan. Then it gets bundled at the regional process through a coalition of governments. And that regional plan goes up and becomes part of the, if it has enough merit, becomes part of the state transportation plan. What the legislature is requiring is that of the state transportation improvement plan, that there are 50% of projects that were decided before the state set any climate goals, and there are 50% of projects, an additional 50% of projects that are out of alignment with the most current rules. All of this stands to reason because what I've lined out for you is it takes 5 to 10 years for a project to go through the first 3 steps of what I've said to you, unless you have someone like Jeff Miller who cuts through that by just sponsoring legislation at the top. And that's a very difficult thing that happens perhaps 3 times in someone's career that I can think of in the 32 years that I've been doing this. Well, so you have all of those projects that are out of alignment, but the County of Los Angeles, for instance, wants $5 billion immediately to extend its Purple Line, Metrolink, to nowhere. And so it's Purple Link, it's Purple Line subway, which in a county of 14 million people services about 45,000 riders a day. So the only way it can get that money from the state is if it proposes that if you are a road project that were considered before 9 months ago, then the state cannot spend, and cities are agencies of the state, and counties are agencies of the state. So the state will not allow any of the agencies within it to spend that money, period. And that's it. So that's where the state gets to, there is no such thing as a city which is independent of the state in the United States of America. There's no independent city. There's no city that it's the federal system. It's why I go out of my way to name the national government the national government. But it's not the federal government. It's federal. We live in a federal system, and that's how they're able to eliminate the ability to use local funds for road projects. It is a gigantic power grab.
So safe to say, if a project is grandfathered in, it's killed under the
Yes.
new rules.
Yes. In fact, you're
So-
penalized. You're penalized for not for having any long-term plan. Yes,
So
you're
all those
completely totally penalized.
expansion projects, all those expansion projects I started working on in early 2000, whether it was Surface Club widening, the lane from the 71 to Green River. I mean, heck, even McKinley Overpass to the 1591 interchange. Those projects have, as Jeff pointed out, have a 5 to 10 year, startup on them. And so what this bill will do is, if basically any of those projects or any projects that are grandfathered in, that they're going to be killed off. So that's
Well,
not
and-
that's not a good thing.
And more to the point, what ends up happening are, say that we lose on these bills, and the way that the bill handles the money that is then left in the pot for, say, the now unfinished 9115 interchange, right? Say, oh, well, we've used $30 million of the $85 million on the interchange. The interchange project is stopped. The $55 million goes back into the state coffers as unapportioned. RCTC we sue, right? Because obviously there are tons of problems with this. And that lawsuit wends its way through. Sure enough, at the end of that process, we win. And the state turns around and says, oh, shoot, we spent that $55 million on extending the BART line an extra 6 feet up in San Francisco. The money's gone. So get back in line. And, we're really sorry that we did that. But yes, all of the billions that were kept on account for your new road have been spent. And so you'll go to the front of the line on the new projects, but those new projects will take 10 to 15 years to fund. You actually get dumber if you think about it. But this is a real piece of legislation. It is a very, very real threat. And an amazing amount of people are sitting on the sidelines because they're concerned that if they don't, that they will lose their transit projects. And so we aren't tied to transit. We aren't tied to any sort of mode of transportation. We are tied to making it easier to do work in the state of California and to build careers in the state of California. And obviously you cannot do that if you cannot get across the state of California. And that's what we're tied to. And that's why it's appropriate for us to take this position.
And that's as in mobility. It's all about mobility.
All about mobility.
So Jeff, that was enlightening, to say the least. Looks like on your next item, the price of honey is going to go skyrocketing. So make sure you go stock the shelves of honey, right?
It's more than that. If you are sitting on a piece of property and have a bee land on it, you are now in sensitive habitat. So if you want to change the awning on your home, that is not a bee in your backyard. That is a fish, because under the California Endangered Species Act and the California Environmental Quality Act, the state is not able to declare insects, of which there are hundreds of billions in the state of California right now. The state went out of its way not to define invertebrates as even being available for protection. Well, but fish are. Well, over time, the courts have turned fish into meaning lobsters. And we fought that because at the time we said, if you allow lobsters in, now you're allowing invertebrates. And as much as we love invertebrates, then you need to go back to the legislature and you need to pass a law. You cannot make law in courts. Well, Slowly over time, it became lobsters, and then it became butterflies, but only in a small amount of area. Now it's bumblebees, and we're on the front page today of the Wall Street Journal. We are a national laughingstock. The national, a series of experts in articles are calling us some of the dumbest people known to man, because there is no common ancestor between any sort of animal in the ocean and the bumblebee. But a bumblebee has now been recognized as being a fish, and so the Fish and Game Commission is now allowed. That's why it's called the Fish and Game Commission, not the Insect Fish and Game Commission. The Fish and Game Commission is now entitled to protect bumblebees, of which there are millions. We can argue if there's more bumblebees or fewer bumblebees, or right, but of which there are millions. They can now say wherever a bee lands in the state of California is protected environment, and you now have to go through a taking to remove your rose bushes in front of your house. And that's the goal. That is the ultimate goal, that every homeowner, every business, I am not making this up, this is straight out of testimony before the Fish and Game Commission, that the state would gain planning authority over the smallest of decisions. And so that's where we are up against. And right now it's a state appellate court decision. There is the almond growers are fighting this because it would eliminate almond trees in the state of California, and almost immediately, which would put hundreds of thousands of people out of work. And so we're fighting this, and we wanted to keep you updated on it. So happy to answer any questions, but yes, as far as environmental protection is concerned in the state of California, the bumblebee is an ocean-going fish. So yeah, it's the same. It's a very similar argument to steelhead trout make it from Newport Beach up to Big Bear to spawn, which leads the Santa Ana River to be a protected environment, which held up the planning on the 91 freeway for almost 3.5 years. So that we could prove that no, there's a series of dams which make it physically impossible for either a human being to walk it or a trout to, there's no evidence that trout swim across a dry river all the way up to Big Bear. I mean, these are the arguments that we're fighting, and if we don't fight them, literally they're. So I hate to bore you guys with some of these things, and we try and make it as straightforward as possible, so that they're easy to understand, because they're fairly simple arguments. Obviously, any child can tell you that a bumblebee is not a fish, but there are very highly paid grown people that have argued that in court, and they have now won a court case.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Anthony,
No further questions.
I need to go get a cup of coffee
and put some honey in it.
Well, maybe the bees carry the fish on their backs to get them up the Santa Ana River, but who knows? All right, Anthony, anything?
There are no further questions.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. We're a little bit over. I just want to congratulate again, Chad. Chad, I don't know if you want to chime in on a little bit about the trip to Sacramento and what your thoughts were on it. Do you mind taking a minute here and just giving us a quick update? I'm putting you on the spot.
No worries. Yeah, no, thank you very much. It was exciting and shocking at the same time. Very informative. I know that looking at the budget surplus of about $97 billion, and the state was this week looking at how they're going to spend that. Of course, top priority was returning some of that to the taxpayers themselves. So it was interesting to see kind of what the battle is going to be over. I know that $10 billion was earmarked for our ports to help upgrade those, make them deeper. So there was a few good things that came from that. So had a really informative trip with the group. I think we represented very well. For myself, I think some of my takeaways are really looking at, I think we would all agree that the state's concerns with all the voters, basically they did say that some of the top things on their list was public safety, and that things have gotten out of hand. So that was very high on the list of concerns from the voters, was safety, of course. Financial circumstances with the gas pricing and inflation were top as well. And one of the major takeaways was the majority of voters felt that the cost of living in California is out of control, which of course we can see that evidence based upon the population deficit we've had over the last 2 years. So there were some really good things that were confirming for us as a group, but I think also kind of eye-opening that hopefully some of our legislators are going to react to what the voters are saying. That would be a fantastic thing. And I think the work we do here is helping with that. One of the things that I had asked a question of in the Cal Chamber Summit was myself with my family, our 5 kids, we sit down and go over the ballots and we research everybody. And I just thought there was kind of a flaw in the process, that I almost had to be an investigator to really find out who was supporting or opposing what, which is kind of how I align my vote. I support people who vote that would represent me. And so I found difficult this year to do that. So we would literally, have a very difficult time trying to find out who was running for what office or whatever it was, and then how to find the information of how they voted so that I could align with them. So I did bring that up, as I thought that like a QR code on each page of our pamphlet would be great. And they thought that was a good idea, but we'll see if that ever happens. But that was one of my recommendations.
That's great. That's great. Well, congratulations again on your award. Well received and well deserved.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, does anybody have anything else? Other than that, I'm going to wrap things up here. There's our assembly member and senators' contact information on the screen if you need to get a hold of them. There's their phone numbers and emails. Of course, you can contact Brad. He's on the call here if you need any help from the assembly member's office. Today's sponsor, I want to thank again, is Express Employment Professionals. Their long-term goal at the heart of their company's vision is to help as many people as possible find good jobs and helping as many clients as possible find good people. Learn more at expresspros.com. With that, please join us next week, June 15th, for another legislative update, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.